this sort of reality that is so limited if you give yourself to it completely. That's what I found. But anyway, I like to I don't know. I guess get into a bit of the into your what happened to you later on when you started getting into astral projection. How did that happen?
Well, after high school, I went through a really chaotic relationship, which I'm going to comment on after getting into after projection because it has something to do with it actually. Uh, and Celine.
Right.
I start talking about her, but anyway, I was in this really horribly codependent, messed up, chaotic relationship for 4 years. This woman cheated on me multiple times. Um, I lost all my friends because of how codependent and socially ingrown we were. So for about a year of my life, all I did was read books and on remote viewing, astral projection, paranormal, go to work, practice astral projection. And I had a girlfriend for a few months during that time, but pretty much all I did with my spare time was read books and practice astral projection.
Oh wow. Amazing. Um, so can you tell me a bit about your first experiences with astral projection?
Um, I don't really remember all of them really well because I didn't write them down, and this was 12 years ago. But I was really I was actually looking for help because I was having all of these types of quote unquote spiritual experiences, which I don't really believe are technically spiritual anymore. I think that just has to do with quantum physics and things like that. But I was having these experiences I couldn't understand, and uh, I picked up this book, Psychic Warrior,
Yeah.
by David Morehouse. Have you read that?
No, but
Okay.
it sounds very familiar though. I think I've heard about that before.
Yeah, he's a remote viewer that was actually hired by the government. Um,
Right, right.
yes, he was doing a training exercise, training Palestinians actually um, to fight Israelis for some, well, I'm sure you can figure out the reason for that if you just think about it for a good like 10 seconds.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
um,
think I know. Yeah.
but anyway, they were in this valley that was called the Valley of Ghosts or something, and he actually got shot in the head in the training exercise, but he was wearing a bulletproof helmet,
Right.
and it was like a rubber bullet. So it didn't kill him, but it just hurt him really bad. And after that, he had this couldn't sleep and was having all these weird experiences. And he got recruited into the government's remote viewing program. I think it's called Stargate. So um, I started practicing remote viewing, and I actually remote viewed him before, trying to ask him for help because I felt like I was going insane just like he was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I would see him at a desk, like he would be writing something or typing something on a typewriter sometimes, and I'd be floating above him. Sometimes he wouldn't notice. Sometimes I would just say like help, help, um, and he would sense me and look up and say, kind of squint and say, "Who are you?" And I would say, I'm, I, I just want to know if I'm real. I just want to know if you see me, And then he would say, "What's wrong? Why are you upset?"
Yeah.
And I would say, "I just feel like I'm going crazy." But then I would just kind of fade away because I couldn't maintain.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think remote viewing and astral projection is almost the same thing. But the methods are a little bit different, and the goals. Basically, remote viewing or SRV, scientific remote viewing,
Yeah.
is kind of scientific method of astral projection.
Hmm.
So with astral projection, you lay on your back, you close your eyes,
Right.
and then you just try to float away and go to the spirit plane or the physical plane or whatever.
Right.
With remote viewing, they're trying to see if it's real. I mean, they're basically what the remote viewers that work for the government do is they spy on other countries.
Right. 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 Right.
So to practice, they would have a piece of paper and a target, which was actually a series of random numbers, which is really weird.
Uh-huh.
They first started using actual latitude and longitude coordinates, and then they just started using random numbers, and for some bizarre reason it worked. But they would have a target, and the remote viewer would keep their eyes open and just write down what they were seeing in their mind, with their third eye, right? And it would just be, they would say, just draw the shapes,
Mm-hmm.
and don't try to figure out what it is that you're looking at. Just draw the shapes that you see,
Yeah.
and any type of physical impressions such as sound and anything you smell, and any type of like emotional impressions. Just write that down.
Right. I just like to cut in here because we're already 17 minutes into the interview, and at the half-hour point, we're gonna have a break.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna shift gears here a bit, and I'd like to ask you if you're comfortable talking about the very experience that got you interested into shared dreaming, because I think you shared that with me on the forum
Mhm.
before, and it was
Yeah.
kind of a tough thing that you went through. So would you like to share that at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, I think I don't know why it is, but in order to get like to where Raven Knight and I are, you have to go through agony and pain, and I hope that's not true for everyone.
Well,
But,
I know it's very, very true for me, and
Yeah.
I'll share about that later. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. So this is how it happened. I met this beautiful woman whose name was Ray, actually, which is funny because it sounds like Raven. That was her nickname.
Huh.
And I was insanely attracted to her. At this time, I was about a 28-year-old virgin, or 29-year-old virgin. I decided, Christianity is bullshit. I want to have sex, and I'm going to explore my psychic powers and all this.
Right on.
So I met this woman. We had a really strong psychic connection. We were both attracted to each other, but she was just this insane tease. So anyway, we would always talk to each other telepathically, just sit across from each other and stare into each other's eyes for like 5 or 10 minutes, not saying anything. And then, anyway, she's, after one of those really intense experiences of this mental telepathy, she said, "I want to show you something."
Yeah.
And she demonstrated her telekinesis.
Really.
Yeah, she used a little scrunchie. We walked over to her dresser, and she just placed the edges of her palms on the dresser, and the scrunchie was in between her hands, and it just started skipping about. Just a little bit, ever so slightly, maybe about a 1/16 eighth of an inch or so.
Right.
So a few millimeters in your country. Afterwards, I said, okay, well, this is cool. She shared that with me. It's obviously true. And I said, can I visit you in your dreams tonight? Is that okay? I asked her permission.
Right.
And she said, yeah, go for it. So I did, and what I saw her as a young child holding a little doll. And she looked scared and cold.
Right.
She was standing on a big black and white checkerboard, and there were these funny shapes like the Seattle Space Needle in Washington State, scattered about.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the next day,